Just to give you a little bit of background, I've been working with Chase and some of the other board members on the Silicon Slopes chapter here. And we talked about, there's a lot of great data analytic jobs in the Valley and even remote working in the Valley and possibly working for companies around the world. So we thought we'd kind of focus on that. Just to give you who I am, I work for the Huntsman School of Business here at Utah State. I'm a corporate relations specialist. I focus on companies that are looking to hire data analytics, information systems students. So this panel is something that I wanted to put together and kind of talk to these panel members about the exciting jobs that they're doing in data analytics. So I'll start. Let's have Cali. Let's have you introduce yourself if you just want to give us a little bit about you and where you work.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Cali Christensen. I live here in North Logan. I work for Thermo Fisher. I have worked here for almost a year, and I am originally from like a little town in Utah. My background professionally has been with a turkey facility. Before this, I was there for about 7 years in a variety of analytical positions. And then I worked for Space Dynamics Laboratory for a small amount of time while I was working on my master's. And then following my graduation, I got this job here with Thermo as a supply chain specialist as an analyst. So I work with the materials planning teams and the manufacturing planning teams.
Great, thank you. Brigham, do you want to give us your introduction, a little bit about you?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Brigham Doxey, also living here in Logan. I work for Boostability, a company out of Lehigh, as a data analyst and as a product manager there as well. I also run a consulting, just a small consulting firm here for data for smaller and growing businesses, help them manage and pursue growth using their data. That's called Insight. I came out of the higher education system, working as Cali did in various analytics roles and different things there. And she and I actually did the MBA program at Utah State at the same time. So no, Cali's great. And yeah, I guess more importantly, I have a wife and 3 kids, which takes up the other 80% of my time.
Great. Kyle, do you want to give us your introduction and a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. So my background is in statistics. I have both my master's and my bachelor's from statistics in Utah State. Got those back in the mid 2000s. Since then, I've kind of weaved around through pharmaceutical statistics, biostatistics. Did some research time at Utah State, spent a few years up there on one of the bigger memory studies. And then after that, I went and worked in a market as a market research statistician for a few years for a firm down in Salt Lake, which that really kind of helped me have the vision of how analytics and business and statistics can all come together. You know, my background when I was coming through school was, hey, statistics is this very rigid function. You're going to work as a researcher, in a pharmaceutical industry or something very rigid like that. And with all the new opportunities that have arisen since then, it's been really enlightening for me to be involved with analytics and statistics in a business sense. That's really, given me a new level of encouragement, excitement. Since then, I moved up to Malouf. I've been at Malouf now for 7 years, 7.5 years now. And when I first came to Malouf, we were a small firm that had about 30, 40 people here in Logan, and now we're closer to 500. And it's been interesting watching the development of data analytics, going from no team, having no reporting structure, nothing like that, to now a team of, there's 9 of us on our team now. We have a pretty big responsibility set across the different functions of the company. So yeah, a little about me. I'm originally from North Ogden, wife and 4 kids. So that's a little about me.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. And Andy, I see that you've joined us. Would you introduce yourself to the group here?
Yes. Can you hear and see me okay, Steve?
Yeah.
Great. Yes, I'm thrilled to be on this panel. My name is Andy Brim. I graduated in CS from Utah State a long time ago, 2006. And then I went into investment banking for 8 years as a software developer for different trading desks. And then I came back to get a PhD in computer science and a master's in finance from Utah State. And then I took a job as a professor in the data analytics department. And it's been a party. And true or false, I have tackled Kyle Hess before.
I'm going to say true on that.
True.
I believe there is a connection from long ago on previously tackling each other.
We played on the rugby team together, and I have a picture of Kyle playing rugby that you would really enjoy. So ping me if you need to see that picture.
Well, let that be out there for the group. Well, thank you all for introducing yourselves and for joining. I have some questions for you, and then after that we'll open it up to some of the group here if they have questions. But my first question, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but the Harvard Business Review just recently named data scientist as the sexiest career of the 21st century. So I'm assuming, data analytics, all of you are excited by that you now work in the sexiest career of the 21st century. So let's start with Kyle. I'll start with you since you're first on my screen. What was it that made you decide to get into analytics?
Well, for me, it was a little bit of a winding route. I knew when I was coming up through school that I love math. I love anything to do with numbers and things like that. And I never could find a home into, what type of math really drove me forward. I spent time in, theoretical math and things like that. And then when I landed on statistics, I had some courses early on from professors up there that really, got me excited about how I could apply my knowledge to a real world situation, and actually create something that was useful to the end consumer and to just whoever was using the product. So from there, that's where statistics kind of hit home for me. And as I spent my time out in the real world, learning kind of what that meant, I always had a strong interest in business and how those things could work together. And so for me, it was a supernatural setting when I came upon market research analytics and market research statistics to really find out how, I could apply those. And then from there, it was, I want to get more involved with business and realizing how the data analytics of a business can help drive things forward. So for me, it was kind of a kind of falling in the right direction, but it's something that I would, if I had to choose to do it again, I would have followed the same path.
Great, thank you. Brigham, how about you? What got you started in data analytics?
Kind of a happy accident for me. I was working, I had graduated undergrad in business. I was working at the university I graduated from, Southern Virginia, in a number of different roles. And I just, one night I remember being like, man, I need to know the answer to this question. I think it's really important. Like, how do I do that? Turned to our system, and it's kind of outdated. And the way that you pull lists was pretty closely related to how SQL is structured. And so anyway, got into there and pulled the answers, and it just was kind of a light bulb went off. Like I could do that. I can find answers for myself, using the data available. And just kind of went from there. Taught myself SQL, still not a master, but got enough where I could do more with it, and got to the point where I wanted to do this full time. So anyway, it was great, and ultimately I love driving business value, helping make strategic decisions, and data just happens to be the way to do that. There's a lot of different ways, but for me, that's the one that I've landed on.
Great, thank you, Cali. How about you? How did you get started in data analytics?
Gosh, I feel like you're not going to get any academic answers here. So mine was a total accident as well. I graduated with a degree in communication studies and political science, which I did not think were very practical degrees. I have found out since then that a communications degree is pretty valuable in business. But I graduated very poor, and I had a turkey farmer guy who he had a PhD in animal reproduction, asked me if I would be interested in looking at barn temperatures. So he asked me if I knew how to use Excel. I told him yes. I had no idea. And from there, I just I found out how anyway, through that, and then a lot more experiences from there, I just found out how much data answers questions and really drives answers, right? We all have like a gut feeling of what we think should be right. And what I found is sometimes the data can lead us in different directions, and it's really exciting for me. And so my path started sort of accidentally as an opportunity. And I think for me, I'm grateful that I took that opportunity, and it's definitely led me down a path that makes me very happy in what I do now.
Great, thank you, Cali. And Andy, you're going to give us the academic answer, right? I mean, you're the guy from the academic side. So what made you want to go into data analytics?
I mean, honestly, I love it. Data analytics is more and more becoming, the cross section between programming and statistics and solving problems. And to me, it's a lot of fun. I think the reason that Harvard, what was it, the Harvard Business Review, did you say that made that statement? When you do, I think they made it about data scientist, which I would say the difference between a data, I saw in the questions, the difference between a data engineer and a data analyst. Maybe I'll save that answer for if you have that question queued up later, but the difference between a data analyst and a data scientist, scientist is going to require more rigorous programming and honestly machine learning and AI. If you say you're a data scientist these days, they're going to expect machine learning and AI. So, but really, if you have those skill sets, most companies are not going to put you just on a long-term active code base to provide enhancements to an application. They're going to put you at the forefront of the problems they're trying to solve. So you get to be kind of at the forefront of the business, working with the business leaders to try and make the processes and the decisions and their predictions in business better and more profitable. And it's typically project-based. So you're working on a project for 3, 4, 5, 6 months and then moving to the next cool, interesting thing. So there's a high rate of enjoyment because, you're doing things that are fun, your skill set's growing, and you're always, looking at new problems. So to me, it's a lot of fun, and it uses the skill sets I enjoy. So that's scientist. Analyst, though, I would say, more and more, though, analyst is requiring stronger coding. So the approach that we've taken in the Department of Data Analytics, you will get a rigorous programming experience, period. You will come out a great computer programmer, period. And building things is a lot of fun. If you like building things, and being a data analyst and using data to change things and make decisions can be a lot of fun. So that's probably why I would say it's why I did it, one, and why it's commonly considered a enjoyable profession.
Andy, I'm going to stay with you on this next one because I want you to talk a little bit as you can about the Data Solution Center.
Yeah.
So the next question is really what skills are needed to become a data analyst? And in answering that, if you could talk a little bit about, you obviously have a skill set, but what skill set is provided by the Data Solution Center? Yeah,
so I'll answer your kind of question in 2 parts there. So the Analytics Solution Center, I'll just slightly correct your
sorry
name there. No problem. So the Analytics Solution Center is a student-based consulting group. So what happens is they're student teams of 4 or 5, and you get 2 faculty mentors, myself included, and one of the other faculty mentors, where companies come to the Analytics Solution Center and we provide really just a project for them. So some of the example projects have been, I don't know who's familiar with Koch Industries in here. Maybe throw a Y in the Zoom chat if you're familiar with Koch Industries. So they're a huge partner for the Huntsman School of Business, and they have multiple subsidiary companies that do all kinds of businesses. So the last project we did is we used machine learning techniques, computer vision techniques to tell if a fireball in they had these huge boilers that are as big as a building themselves, and there's not a normal burner. These boilers are so huge that they have it's like a basketball sized fireball that's suspended in the air 24/7 by 6 jets shooting fuel into it. And the fireball just stays there. And they do it so that they can produce nylon at huge volume. But the problem is that the fireball moves over to the side of the boiler, it'll blow up the pipes. And the most expensive part of that is actually not the fixing the boiler. It's the downtime of not being able to make nylon. It costs them millions of dollars. So the project was here's a camera, have a machine learning algorithm, look at the fireball, and then tell a human when the thing moves or when it breaks apart or does something like that. That's a really fun project, and they really need a solution. They actually have multiple teams at Coke who are waiting for our code to go use it in to, you know, not blow up their boilers. So that's just one. And there's most of them use machine learning and AI techniques. Not all the projects. A lot of the projects do analytics that, you know, involve programming and maybe more classical statistics. But let me merge into the second part of your question. So analytics, you know, what is analytics? If you look at our curriculum for data analytics, there's a great answer right there. It's really you get strong statistics, you'll have statistics courses, you'll have programming courses, and you'll have a lot of visualization and project-based courses to, you know, help you work in a team to solve solutions. So.
Great, thank you. And let me go back to you, Cali. What kind of asking the same question, what tools in your job as a data analyst do you use daily?
Yeah, so we use a lot of Excel and some more Excel and a little bit more Excel. We use some SQL. We use a lot of SQL. We use some Power BI. We have a reporting service. So a lot of our data is not actually live data, which can be a little bit difficult. But so we do a lot of downloading different reports and then trying to make those canned reports tell us what we need them to, right? So we're making some significant some changes in the way that we're able to access data and make it more accessible to us. And anyway, so those are some of the things that we use. I think for me, one of the biggest tools, right? So one thing that Andy talked about was having the opportunity to work in teams. For me, one of the biggest tools I have are the coworkers that I am with, right? They know a lot of things that I don't know, and that they can help me kind of understand if what I'm looking at and what I'm trying to build or to create or the solution I'm coming up with is going to make sense, right? And so I would add that there are a lot of system tools that we have that we can use, and without the people resources that we have around us, in any facet, right? So at work, also in your schooling, make sure that you use the people that know the things and use the resources that you have. So
great, thank you. Kyle, how about you? Do you have tools? I've heard from various people that you are like the godfather of Excel. So I know I know you're good at Excel. Do you have other tools that you use?
Oh yes, my Excel skills were what you would. I mean, they're important, but they're a little bit outdated now compared to what we need as a company now. And a lot of what, thankful to some recent hires we've made, have really increased our ability to automate stuff through Python scripts and through things like that. We rely heavily on Python. All of our data is stored in SQL. So even though I never really wrote any SQL code before I started here, I'm now another SQL master, as long as the rest of the team. We work very closely with our software engineering team to automate processes through other scripts that they have. We also rely heavily on Power BI. That's our main reporting function that we use. So those are kind of some of the tools that we live in and we rely on every day.
Great, thank you. Brigham, how about you? What tools are you using daily?
Our main system is, well, obviously supported by SQL Server, but it feeds into AWS's BI tool. QuickSight is what we use. It's not terribly robust, but it is what we've decided to go with. And so a lot of what I do is make sure, just like Kyle was saying, there's a nice heavy mix of, and like Cali was saying, there's some needs that are very immediate, very present. This is operational focused. This is how are we fulfilling on the needs. That's automated. Fortunately, that's very up to date. And then on the flip side, I'll dive into Excel and QuickSight to do ad hoc requests and things like that. My role is very front facing, very business facing, whether that's our external partners or our business units themselves. I'll work with our DBA to make sure that the data sets are meeting those needs and help vet the requests for data sets to help meet further needs. But yeah, so a lot of QuickSight, lots of Excel and lots of SQL is where we're at right now.
Great, thank you. It's interesting. You all have different jobs here in Cache Valley that are tied to data analytics. So I'm wondering, and I'll just throw this out to any of you that want to answer this. if I'm looking for a job in data analytics, am I going to be able to find that here in Cache Valley, or do I need to go elsewhere to work in data analytics?
I'll hop in real quick because we currently have 1 to 2 open positions at my company, and that's something that happens frequently, especially with a lot of the people being able to work remotely. We found that more of a struggle to keep people here in the Valley, because now they have, a lot of competition where they can work from home. So the answer, I think, is wholeheartedly yes, and it will continue to be that way.
Anybody else want to jump in on that one?
I will say I'm signed up or subscribed to Glassdoor's and LinkedIn's data analyst posts or whatever. So I see dozens of these come in. Not so many for Cache Valley, but I know one of your questions was remote opportunities, and there are so many and growing. I feel like I see more and more every day. And again, that would include Cache Valley, because like me, I don't have to leave. I work a couple hours away. I go down every once in a while, but I don't have to. So the opportunities are certainly there.
The rest of you, one of you want to comment on Brigham's point about the fact that you don't necessarily have to be working outside of Cache Valley to work in data analytics?
Yeah, I guess I'll comment on that. We recently hired an analyst to work with the purchasers, and he works remotely, so not here in Cache Valley, but he fills that role and supports the team here. Thermo Fisher is often looking for remote positions to fill roles that will support not only the local operations, but also the worldwide business that we support. So yes, I would say definitely lots of remote opportunities for us.
So we've talked about there are some opportunities here within the Valley, but certainly if you have the skill set, you can utilize that to work for companies pretty much around the world, I believe, and have a good career as a data analyst while working here in beautiful Cache Valley. So that's kind of one of the things that we wanted to focus this panel on is, the opportunities. If someone out there watching this panel is considering getting into the data analytics field, what opportunities do they have to leave Cache Valley? It sounds like they don't. So that's good information to provide, and it's also good to hear that there are jobs here locally for people that have the skill set as well. So you kind of got the best of both worlds. You can stay here and work for a great local company, or you can work from home possibly and work for companies around the world. So let me ask. This is going to be different, obviously, for Andy than maybe the rest of you, but I'll start it with Andy. I mean, Andy, what's a typical day for you? I mean, obviously you're teaching, but what about your other areas of data analytics? What else are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a couple ASC projects going on right now. So the one I told you about, the using computer vision to tell if the fireball is going to blow up the boiler, that takes a good chunk of my time during the week. There's also a new project coming up where we're trying to use AI to predict different successes of businesses and particularly their orders, the orders that they make, whether or not they'll be profitable. So, and then my professor job takes up a chunk of time, but yeah. And then there's also the Algo Trading Club. I spent some time doing that. So that's Algorithmic Trading Club. That's a club on campus that writes algorithms to predict and trade the stock market. That's a fun club. So I do a chunk of time doing that. So, and one more thing, Steve, unless that's not enough, but to answer the last question, so the ASC, of the students who go on to get data analyst and scientist jobs, I've kind of loosely tracked them all. And I think about a fourth go out of state, about half-ish stay in state, but are working on site. And then another quarter are remote jobs. So they can stay in Logan if they want to and work from anywhere. So
good to know. Thank you. Brigham, what's a typical day for you like?
Yeah, again, I'm a little bit different, and Andy's obviously really on the technical side. I'm certainly more business focused or more on that front end again. And I'm again transitioning into more of this product manager role. But so a lot of what comes through are requests from business units for either data sets to flow through our system that they need to see to support whatever objectives or questions they need answered. And so a lot of vetting of those. Then that takes a good amount of time. I got to meet with the right people. I get a number of obviously trouble. So I'm in charge of the QuickSight side of the house too. So I get a lot of troubleshooting, just small requests, things like that. And obviously that takes a little bit of the day. And then the rest are ad hoc. And as you know, projects like that kind of ebb and flow. So some days are a lot less, full than others. And other times there's big projects that come in from our big partners that really need answers now for certain things, and that can take up a good chunk of time. So never really a super quiet day, and everything's a little bit different, which I really appreciate. But yeah, it's not all just sitting down and writing SQL at all, at least not for me.
Great. Kyle, what about you? Do you have a typical day there at Malouf?
Yeah, roundabouts. We have one of the cool things about Malouf is we have a software engineering team that built a lot of our own custom software from scratch, which creates an amazing amount of flexibility, right? And how we can fill orders and how we can pretty much do whatever we want. One of the complexities is the data coming out of the back end. And so a lot of our time is spent helping clean that data, helping look through it, helping identify issues and fixes that we need to clean up. A lot of the problems that we're focused on now, if anyone's been aware of what's been going on with the economy the last 2 years, is the supply chain issues. And obviously we're being highly dependent on container shipments from overseas. It's been a real struggle for us to handle our incoming freight, price increases through that freight. And one of the things that we have to do is help expose how those price costs are going to affect ourselves and how all those things are going to work together. In addition to that, just working with the team to, create visuals and try to pinpoint the direct needs of our internal customers, just all the different aspects of the business. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. A lot of times we're dealing with high urgency stuff, bank requirements and other big decisions that need to be made. But there's a lot of variety for us on our team, and it's definitely keeps it exciting.
Great, thank you. And Cali, I'm going to finish with you on that one. Do you have a typical day at Thermo Fisher?
I think that it'll be pretty similar to what my mornings are. I spend quite a bit of time kind of looking at yesterday and doing some reporting. So I look at so that's part of my morning. I'll put together some data on how production went and how we're looking as far as executing orders and things like that, providing that to our site leadership and making sure that we answer questions that have come up from that. And then most of my afternoons are spent on exciting projects, right? So problems or questions will come in, and we answer questions from across all of the business, right? So whether it's a question from purchasing or a question from QA, or so I work a lot with like the production side of things is I guess what I would say, and so the questions could come from any number of places, and they are pretty diverse, right? So so I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to answer questions and provide the right level of detail to keep everybody on the same page and moving forward. So
great. Thank you. So in my job in working with employers and working lots of times with recruiters that may not be completely familiar with the roles, Andy, you talked a little bit about this, but I'm going to open this up to all of you. Can you guys explain, what's the difference between a data scientist, a data analyst, or a data engineer? I mean, do you see a separation in those? Do you see yourself as all of those or one of those? Somebody want to jump in on that?
Sure. You also forgot database administrator, database developer.
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of them. Yes, I agree.
There's a data insert buzzword, latest buzzword here. That's a role, now. So yeah. I can take a crack at it. There is overlap. There's overlap between them, but I'll talk. Maybe I'll answer to what's specific about those. But again, there's overlap. So there's definitely overlap between data analyst and scientist. But again, scientist, I would think, the scientist part of the job would be a little bit heavier statistics and programming and an expectation to be able to use machine learning. Engineering though, so engineering, when you're pulling in data in your raw data form from whatever the source is, from clients or customers, or generated internally through your business processes, the ability to make decisions on that data is not always immediate when you bring that data in. So you have to create data pipeline, how the data is brought in, and then how the data is either filtered or transformed or prioritized. And some of the data you need to make decisions hasn't been created yet. So the engineering part of that is you're taking data and then creating data from that, and then either creating data from that again or using it differently or changing it like that. So, just like an engineer would, in the physical sense, starts with, raw materials and then, creates something, more specific that's desired for a purpose. Data is the same way. Data has to be, channeled and then used and created for something else. So that's data engineer. But again, data engineering is more and more requiring programming. The data engineer and data scientists overlap heavily in the data space to prepare data for, if you're a scientist, AI use, or if you're an engineer for another use in another business process. So I'll just throw that out there. But again, there's overlap.
Yeah, great. I understand, and thank you for kind of breaking that into the multiple positions that are listed all the time. For pretty much every company seems to be, we need all of these. Just send us all of these. So anybody else want to comment on that? Do you consider yourself a data engineer, a data scientist? Where do you fall in that realm?
Yeah, I'll hop in here. Our team, I would consider myself more on the data analyst, statistician area, not really data scientist or data engineer. And that's kind of how we built the team originally was, let's focus on exposing data, analyzing data and things like that. And we've kind of realized in the last, 6 months that one of the things that's holding us back is kind of the role that Andy just referred to, the data engineer group that helps prepare things in a way that we can actually get to the data to provide results and provide analytics and do those type of things. And so our current open position is actually for a data engineer. We've realized how much that's limiting the ability for the analysts to provide insights because they're doing so much work just getting to the data to pull insights from. The data scientist thing is like you said early on, is super flashy, super exciting. And I think what all data analysts, well, not all of them, but a lot of data analysts want to grow to be. And I think that's has its place. And I think some cool companies and industries will need that. I think, if you're a product company that's buying a pillow for a price and selling it for a little more, then, maybe some of that complex analytics and that heavy level data science isn't quite as necessary. But I think the roles are definitely important to understand and distinguish and kind of decide where you want to drive your career, what really moves you. And then if you can figure that out, I think the rest kind of follow suit.
That's great.
Dave, one of the things that I've seen over the years, and fortunately I think it's changed, at least in the Utah and the area, is a lot of companies don't actually understand what they need or what they think they need. And so I've seen posts for jobs that it says we need a data analyst, and then they'll list this long list of coding requirements. But what they're saying, like we want to see the R, we want to see heavy Python, we want to see heavy SQL. Which we want to see the AI, the ML stuff, and that's what Andy mentioned, getting more of the scientist role. But what they want out of it is really just somebody who can do all the things. So there's been a lot of kind of misunderstanding as what's needed, and obviously depends on the organization. Fortunately, I think things have moved a little bit away from that because again, a couple of years ago they list this long list of requirements. We had 5+ years of experience. And we'll start you at $40,000 a year. What a deal. And that's just not, for those kinds of expectations. But what I've seen now is more of that. We're going to segment things. You're seeing actually now a BI analyst as well, which is really just you're on that front end. You're the one working Tableau or Domo or whatever your tool is. You're not really even touching that back end thing. And that's kind of where I've transitioned. But it ultimately just depends on the business and making sure. And part of the interview process is you need to make sure that you understand what they need on your end, because so often we just go in like, I need this job, I want this job. It's data, it's exciting. But I think Kyle mentioned just make sure you know what they're really asking for, what they need, so that you can understand how you can help meet that need.
Great. Cali, I'm going to start with you on this next question. This is kind of wrapping up here, and then we'll take some questions from hopefully some of our attendees. But what excites you about the future of data analytics?
Well, the amount of data is always exciting, accessibility, and being able to kind of connect our data with other, I think, with outside the organization is exciting to me. I don't know a lot of big, fancy industry terms or anything. So I would just say that for me, I think that I've seen a shift as people become and businesses become more aware of what the data can tell them and help drive them to do, there's a lot more questions, right? A lot more things to answer, and a lot more ways that data is being used, and it becomes a much more innovative field to be in. And I think that's really exciting, right? As we learn more potential, that just gives us that much more to do and to be involved in, right? And I think that's really exciting for me.
Great thing. Kyle, how about you? What excites you about the future of data analytics?
Well, I kind of answered that question looking at my own personal scenario. And for me, it gives someone who might not be the most involved in everything a kind of a seat at the table. And I love that idea that if you live in the analytics in the world and you see everything that's going on, you now can be someone that can move towards more of a decision maker, and you can create skill sets that could help lend itself to different things if that's the way you go. And I think it opens up opportunities for more people to be involved in the really interesting parts of business and whatever you're focusing on. So that's what really gets me excited.
Great. Brigham, how about you? What excites you about the future of data analytics? Oh, sorry. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. There's two big things for me as I was thinking about this question. The first one is just how accessible it is for anybody to get for any business size to get insights into their business. As more tools come out that are BI focused, as more automation is produced on the back end, so that people don't necessarily, again, if you're a bigger organization, this may not be the case, but for smaller businesses especially, there's so many tools that are becoming more and more available, more easily accessible to help them generate valuable insights for themselves. And that's really fun to see. And then on the flip side, on the more technical side, which is again not a role that I have necessarily touched too much, but to see the progress in the AI and the ML thing side of things is really cool. And we're seeing some automations that I would have never thought possible. I mean, Andy was talking about, just using video to monitor and to notify of whether this fireball is going to, decrease production or put us out of production for that. Like, who would have thought of that years ago, right? So the possibilities on that side of things are really cool to think about.
All right, Andy, we know that you have your finger on the pulse of all things data analytics. So what excites you about the future of data analytics?
To my comment earlier about, the lines are blurred between analyst, scientist, engineer, and, whatever other role insert, data plus buzzword here. I like that the lines are blurred. It's constantly changing and pushing and trying to get better and do more. And it's interesting. And, at USU, it's we talk about, for those of you who might have been listening, like, oh, machine learning, AI, I have no clue, how to even approach that. I'll just kind of say it bluntly, it's not super hard. So, it is something approachable and learnable and understandable. And, there's great courses, great professors. The community at USU is we learn together, we work together community. So, I do love that about it. And, there's a fun aspect, right? When I was a software developer at Bank of America's investment bank, I was working on a long-term code base. So I had my job, here's your part of the application, write enhancements to it, improve it, and do that for years. And it's still fun and interesting, and you're providing a good service. But, being an analyst, it's more like, the CEO or CFO is like, hey, we need to do this, fix this. How do we do this? And if you enjoy kind of being part of the action, you're there. So it's everyone's opinion, but to me, it's a little fun. So those are my thoughts.
Great, thank you. Thank you all for answering my questions. I'm gonna switch it here and see if we can. Chase, can you see if somebody raises their hand or has a question? Can somebody just jump in and if they have a question for the panel?
If anyone has a question, just feel free to unmute yourself and jump in. Or you can drop it in the chat and I'll read that out to the group. Okay, one question. What roles in the industry PhD graduates with data analysis experience can fill, more specifically PhDs in social sciences? So what opportunities are there for PhD graduates with that data analysis experience?
Andy, that's probably a good one for you, since that's kind of the route that you took, right? I mean, the PhD.
Well, the PhD by nature is, research. So if you have a PhD, obviously you're then qualified to do a research role, but also other roles. I think we've been talking about data. If you have a PhD in a data field, I think you'd be well qualified to do analysis in that field. So, or be a professor, obviously, is a map. So I would say, if there are those who are curious about getting a PhD, there's a strong research component to it. So obviously, make sure you enjoy researching the area you're going to go into, right? Because you're going to be doing it for years. But also, my role is not a research professor, which is great. I teach and work with students as a mentor. So that's another option as a PhD. So
Great.
I predict, though, if you get a PhD in some data field, I predict you'll be very successful.
Great, thank you. Do we have another question, Chase?
We do. What are some of those degree or certification requirements for positions in this field? I'm sure they vary depending on position, of course, but what are some of the specific degree requirements? This might have been covered already, that the person asking says, but might be good to go over that again.
Yeah. Their certifications, I mean, obviously their degrees, and Utah State here is building a great program and going to give you a lot of what you need, but are there certificates that you guys would say, hey, outside of maybe your college education or your work experience, you should pick up this certificate?
Andy might answer this better than me on the certification side. I know for us and roles that I've applied to, they really don't care. Like, they just want to know that you can do the thing. And that shows through. They'll give you, like for me, they gave me a data set for the job that I got last year that I'm in now. They gave me a data set and said, just take it, do something with it. And I got back to them and put together a presentation. Like, that was it. I showed my chops, gone through SQL exercises and job interview. They'll put you through the ropes. They just want to know that you can do the work and that you can think critically and take the creative approaches and things like that. It's been my experience.
Kyle, is that true at Malouf? I mean, do you look for a certain type of person? Do you look for their degree? What are you looking for?
Yeah, what Brigham said carries a lot of water. We've kind of gone through the route. We prefer someone that has shown that they can finish off, at least a bachelor's, and so, hey, I can stick with something, I can finish it off. And certificates are interesting, but the application to real life is difficult. We've had about 5 or 6 interns here work with us through the years, and we've learned that, and I think that this is a note to the program up there, that people are getting better prepared and more in term with real life analytics and things we actually need to do. But in the early days, we learned that those type of things didn't really measure up to a way to kind of show what someone's capable of. And so a lot of things that we're trying to develop now are like tests and things, kind of what Brigham, spoke to, that, hey, we can see what you actually can do. Talk to me about a project you worked with someone where you were involved with it, where you were making decisions, where you were leading the charge of analytics, and show me real world experience. Even if it's like in a project you worked on through school, how did you do something beyond what your professor told you to do? And I think, for me personally, I'm all about the passion. And you can, if you've ever seen someone kind of kind of turn the light bulb on into what analytics is like. You can tell when someone has got the bug, you know, when someone loves it. And those people that love it and truly kind of grow into it are the ones that you can hold on to and know that that's going to be someone that's probably going to end up being really talented.
Great, thank you. Andy, I'm going to throw this one at you real quick, just to see. So students that are coming out of the Analytics Solution Center, I got that right this time, right?
You nailed it.
So students that are coming out of
Work
the Analytics Solution Center, what qualifications do they have? I mean, what sets them apart from a student that gets maybe a degree in just information systems or data analytics?
Yeah, great question. So I would say about half to 2/3 are getting jobs as data scientists, and the rest are analysts, either data or business analyst, data analyst, business analyst. And then if they're depending on their major too, if they're majoring in, because the Analytics Solution Center, we actually let any student apply. So you can be from any area. So I would say if they have a degree in another area, oftentimes they go get a job in that area. But so I would, if I had to pick a number one job coming of the students who come out of the ASC, I'd probably say data scientist and then data analyst in that order.
Okay.
And also just in terms of what USU has to offer, we also have, if you want to get into analytics, and maybe you already have a degree, I know there's working professionals on this call who maybe have already finished. We have graduate degrees where essentially a graduate degree is about 1/3 of the master's in data analytics. So if you're like, I want to strengthen this skill set, you can do the graduate certificate, I think graduate, yeah, that's what its official name is, the graduate certificate. And you essentially take a few classes in the area you want to get stronger in, whether it's, applied statistics kind of towards a data science role, or stronger programming for a web dev or cybersecurity role. You can do that even if your degree is something completely different. It's almost marketed towards people whose degree is completely different. So, and obviously the undergrad and minors will prep you for those roles upon graduation. That's kind of the purpose of those degrees. But
great, thank you. Chase, do we have another question you want to take from the audience?
We do. There's one for Cali. At your time at Thermo Fisher, how have you found your role is able to drive growth or change for the company?
Great. We're in a pretty similar situation as Kyle, right, with the supply chain disruptions. And it's a situation that we have a lot of growth in the industry. And so our team has grown pretty exponentially, but also the workload. And it brings out a lot of interesting challenges for us, right? And so for me, there has been a lot of opportunity to provide insight into deciding how to prioritize the work that we do, and kind of creating some processes that should make us more efficient now and into the future, right? I've also been able to be involved a bit with the network team. So as we've brought on expansion teams across the globe, right, where I've been able to help and work with those teams to make sure that we're kind of synchronizing our efforts between them. So it's been really exciting to be involved in those. We talk a lot about being able to be in the room, right, in the seat, and that's certainly been the case for me. As coming in, I don't have the longevity here that a lot of the employees do, but because of the role that I'm able to play and the access that I give them to the insights, it gives them a lot of possibly misplaced confidence that I know what I'm doing, right? So they look to me to validate their assumptions, or to be able to provide a path forward and to provide some insights. So I would say yes to being able to make a difference in the 11 months I've been there. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Chase, do we have one more? We'll take one last question.
Yeah, let's see. We've got so many. Here's this one is kind of maybe a little more broad for anyone applying for a position, but do you have any tips for applying for remote positions? Most of the remote openings I see have 100+ applicants within the first 2 hours. The job is posted. Would love some tips on how to stand out. I think this is applicable for anyone, even outside of analytics.
Here's your chance to divulge the secret sauce on how to land a job when there's so I see the same thing. There's a lot of competitions for jobs when they open up, and it seems like people applying get kind of overwhelmed with the idea that what's going to make me stand out. So do you guys have suggestions on that?
I'd imagine Brigham's got some ideas on this. I read some of the comments in here about your network and being involved, and I know that definitely my position is in person, but I know that having that network helped me get the job that I have. Right, I found a job that I was interested in. I read the qualifications, like, this is like my dream job. This is what I want to do, right? And so I reached out to one of the other MBA students and I was like, hey, remember we went on that tour last year? And he went and he put in a really good word for me. And I don't think that I would have got the interview that I did without him. So I agree with the comments in there about making sure that you use your network.
Great. Anybody else want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I'll just say, like, from someone hiring and looking through a lot of resumes, quite often it's important to understand what you're applying for, and tailor your resume to what you're looking for. Don't think you can just slap the same resume across every application you want to apply for, but research your company, research what they're doing, and tailor it so that you fit what they're looking for, at least your best guess, and really put that at the top of the list. As someone who looks at resumes, I don't really care too much what the format looks like. If I can look at the top of the resume and say, okay, this person is someone I'm interested in. And so I would highly focus around those few points.
Brigham, do you want to add anything on that?
I think that's really good. I'm thinking back of the positions that I've been offered, and it's been weird. Like I just got an offer for a job as a senior data analyst. They didn't put me through any process, really. Like, I went through interviews, right? For them, what it came down to, I think, was, do I fit well? And in a lot of cases, they just want to know that you can do work. Like, they might see the skills that you might check all the boxes, but if you can't demonstrate that you can do something, right, that you have a past of success somehow, whether that's in your resume or in the interview process, it's not going to matter. It's like all the certifications, all the languages, it's not going to mean anything if you don't know how to put in the work, if you don't understand the organization, like I was saying. And when you get down to it, you're just trying to find ways to add value to the organization. And so that means you need to know the organization. You need to know yourself too. Right. And that creates a very interesting dialogue where and there was a question about nailing the interview. When you're in that interview, you need to know, like, you are interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. You are trying to find ways where you can add value, where you are going to be the solution to their problems. And if you can't, then that's fine. And you might come out of the end of that being like, this is not even close to what I was expecting, right? Like, this is not what I want, which is what happened to me on this last round. I ended up staying with Boostability, and I'm glad I did. But anyway, those are my 2 cents.
Sorry to thank you all. We're reaching the end of it here. So thank you, Andy and Cali and Brigham and Kyle. Thank you all for your time today. I think this has been a valuable experience for people to kind of learn about what you do and what's out there. So this is kind of what we want to do as part of the local chapter of Silicon Slopes. Chase, do you have anything you want to add at the end?
I would just say, I've mentioned this a couple times in the chat, but please join the Slack channel and keep these conversations going. The whole point of this is so that we can learn about what other people in the Valley are doing and find ways to work together and support each other and support people who want to build a career here locally. We've got a lot going on. And then in the same vein, please let us know what types of conversations that you want to hear for our next events. We're hoping to do one in June, so we might start doing every other month. So please give us feedback. Let us know what you want to hear about or what conversations you want to be a part of. So,
well, great. Thank you, Chase. Thank you again, and thank you, Silicon Slopes members, and those of you that have joined us and their panel. I really appreciate it, and hope you got some good information out of it. So thank you all.